All right, let's do a mag dump up here, up close here. Fun. Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about my first AR-15. Okay, so I bought this in 2010. Back then I was fairly new to guns. I got into guns late in life. I think I was something like, I don't know, 35, 36 years old at the time. So I had moved into PA several months earlier and started buying guns. Okay, so I had already bought a couple of pistols, I bought a couple of rifles. I had like a Mosin Nagant, you know, I had some high points. So like the typical newbie, I was like going after the cheaper guns. Which is fine because I learned to shoot on those guns. Okay, sometime around 2010, I saw this Smith & Wesson M&P 15 Sport 1. Okay, so I think I saw it. It was listed somewhere around $700 in the gun store. I mean, I think by the time I got it, the store was something like $750. But it seemed like a bargain because most AR-15s around that time were somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200. Okay, so and that's for the budget ones. This is before Palmetto. I mean, the company may have been around at the time. I don't know, but this is before they became like a main thing. Like back then, I think Deltins were a big name. Bushmaster was a big name. You know, so you know, Colt was a name back then. My second one was a Colt. So the one after this is Colt. I've done other videos on that. I'll bring that back at some point. We'll do a video on that as well. So this was my first AR-15. Went into the gun store. I saw it hanging on the wall. It was listed. Maybe it was listed for $720 or something. And it seemed like a very good bargain because at the time, like I said, when I was thinking AR-15s, I was thinking upwards of $1,000, and I'm like, I'm new to guns, so I'm like, I'm not spending that much money on the gun. You know, I got my high point, I got my, you know, my Mosin Nagant, you know, I had my SKS, you know, so I saw this, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Let me get this thing and try it out. I had not, which is not to say I hadn't shot an AR-15. I had shot ARs, I had shot AKs. Like I said, I was slowly getting into it. So. That's basically the reason I bought this because it was the cheapest one I saw hanging on the wall, and at the time, like buying guns online and having them shipped to your FFL, it probably was a thing, but to somebody that just got into guns, you know, that's not a thing. You normally, like I was going to gun shows at the time, I was getting these SKSs and Mosin Nagants at gun shows and stuff like that. Yes, so this was the cheapest one I saw hanging on the wall. Wasn't, you know, didn't know anything about ordering stuff online and shipping it to FFL, so I said, okay, I'll take it. You know, I picked it up, I looked at it. It had the built-in the front sight post, and it came with the rear flip-up sight. Okay, and for a long time, that's how I shot it. I don't think I even tried putting a red dot on this for almost maybe another 2 years, maybe in like 2012. And the one that I ended up putting on this was the like a $20 like budget you know, open reflex. I recently did a video on it. That one, it was the one I did a video on was from Fiachi, but at the time it was a generic brand that somebody else was selling. So anyway, that's the one I ended up putting on this. So again, this is like brand new to me. So anyway, as far as this gun over here, I started shooting it. I mostly shot it with Tula, right? And that's what we're gonna shoot it with today because that's what I was shooting it like almost 100% back then. Now I did not have these Lancer magazines. I didn't have any PMags. The ones I was using was like the cheap aluminum ones that I was buying from cheaper than dirt. And at the time, I didn't know that, hey, if you drop those on the feed lips, the feed lips get bent and you get malfunction. So I did occasionally get malfunctions, not the gun's fault. It was because of the bad magazines that eventually would get banged around, and you know, eventually you'd have like a nose up, nose down. Eventually I learned that, hey, if I get PMags, a lot more reliable, the gun becomes more reliable. It actually took, like, for a long time, people were questioning the reliability of AR-15s. Like back in the Vietnam days, it was because they were shipped with the wrong ammunition that had the wrong gunpowder, that was a lot dirtier, and they were shipped without cleaning kits. But that got resolved, you know, way back then. But what they didn't resolve was the problem with the magazines. Okay, so for a long time, AK-47s were considered a lot more reliable. In fact, back in 2010, when I got this, that was like a major thing. Like, people were like arguing online all the time over which was the better gun. Everybody was saying the AK was a much more reliable gun. At the time, we really didn't know that the problem with the AR-15 reliability was the magazines. Okay, once we got the PMags and these Lancers, this gun became like 100% reliable. So ever since I started using good magazines, either Lancers or PMags, I've never had a malfunction that was either not induced, right? Because sometimes I'll induce malfunctions for the purpose of exercises. Sometimes the ammunition can be shitty. So ever since I got good magazines for the gun became 100% reliable. So I'm going through this whole story for you because, like I said, this is my first AR-15, and you know, most of the guns that I talk about, I usually talk about them from the perspective of, hey, I got this. I was already a gun instructor. I knew, you know, everything about the gun. You know, this is a gun that I learned on. Okay, so I didn't know everything going into this gun. So the first thing I did not know about AR-15s when I bought this Sport 1 is that the AR-15 is supposed to have a forward assist, which the Sport 1 does not have, and it's supposed to have a dust cover, which the Sport 1 does not have. Okay, so those are the first two things that I actually didn't even notice it until I think I got my Colt, and I looked at the Colt and I said, wait a second, what are these two things over here? Again, at that point, you know, we're back in like somewhere between 2010, 2012. I'm not a gun expert yet. Okay, I'm not a gun. I think in 2012 I started really becoming a gun instructor. So by 2012 I had the Colt, but I probably bought the Colt before that. And it wasn't until I actually bought the Colt that I noticed that, hey, wait a second, this gun has some stuff here that's missing on this other one over here. So yeah, so this Sport 1 does not have the forward assist, does not have the dust cover. And then I went online, did a bunch of research, and people were arguing back and forth about whether or not these two things are necessary, right? Because there was a whole bunch of people that were saying that these two things are not necessary. And the reality is that whether it's necessary or not necessary, it did in fact bother me that this thing was missing those two items, okay? Because it certainly wasn't a mil-spec gun. And yeah, that's the first thing that kind of soured me to this gun. It's like, holy shit, I bought a gun that's like, you know, it's missing stuff, okay? So that was the first thing. Now, the reality is that while most beginners, most shooters that just go to the gun range will never use those two things, for the type of shooting that I ended up doing, right, as I got more into the tactical side of this, I do use both of these two things, okay? For one thing, like a lot of times if I do a press check to see if I got a round in the chamber, or let's say I have the gun locked open and I want to slowly chamber around, let me get a magazine in there, right? If I want to slowly chamber around without making noise, right? Oh, she won't even pick it up. Yeah. Okay, so if I'm trying to slowly chamber around, right, you see how it remains open, okay? Because I don't have the forward assist now. So now what you gotta do is you gotta put your finger in there and you gotta try to push it in. And no, I can't even pushing it with my finger here, can't do it. I really gotta, you know, slingshot it, okay? So as I started getting into more advanced training, yeah, I ran into limitations with this not having a forward assist, and the other problem was it not having a dust cover. You know, especially like a lot of times if I'm shooting in the rain or when it's snowing, right? What I want is, basically I don't want rain and snow getting into there, especially if the bolt is locked open, or even if it's closed. This area over here that runs back and forth inside the upper receiver, that's basically part of the engine of the gun, right? The bolt carrier here. I don't want to get snow on that if I can avoid it, okay? So the other thing I have found is when you're shooting, especially in the wintertime, because sometimes it's like -10 degrees and I'm shooting, I want to maintain a consistent chamber temperature, right? So because as the chamber gets hotter or colder, that can affect the powder burn. And so what I'll do is in the wintertime especially, what I'll do is here, let me get the round out. Get this out. Let me empty this guy out for a second. So in the wintertime, when I get locked back, okay, if it's like negative, like 10 degrees or 15 degrees or 20 degrees, what I'll do is I'll close the dust cover, because what that does is I don't want the chamber cooling down too fast, right? Because then, like, I'm going from extremes. I'm going from the chamber being hot to it's like sometimes extremely cold, as low as -10 degrees, and now the chamber's cooling down. So I'd like closing the dust cover so that the chamber temperature is just a little bit more consistent, okay? In the summertime, I'll do the opposite. If I'm shooting, I'll make sure unless it's raining or something, I'll make sure I leave the dust cover open, because I want the chamber to cool a little bit, I'll use the dust cover more in the wintertime than in the summertime. So the point is, I do use those two things, okay? So this M&P 15 did not have that. So the other thing that this thing is really sucks on this gun, and again, this is like my first AR-15. It is the AR-15 that I like the least, and it actually has a very tight. It's very tight. The upper and the lower, like really tight. Like there's absolutely zero wobble between the upper and the lower. So I gotta use something to pop this thing open. Pull the hammer back. There we go. So some people like a really, here we go, got it. Like a really tight upper and lower. I've come to not like a really tight upper and lower. I'd rather accept a little bit of wobble, and just be able to open up the gun faster when I want to open it. But anyway, the thing that really irked me about this M&P 15 Sport 1 is that it's a neutered bolt carrier. Okay, so this is normally the bolt carrier. This cut here should basically match this one over here, right? So this side here and this side, this should come out all the way to here. Okay, so you see how they cut it back? Okay, so the reason why Smith & Wesson does this, and also Colt, again, I didn't notice at the time, is so that you can't put in a drop-in auto sear, or a coat hanger auto sear, or one of the other ones. There's a few other ones out there. Not that I've tried it, but you can't put it in here. So that really bothers me. And that's the reason, that's like the key reason why it's like, you know what, I don't want to buy another Smith & Wesson M&P 15. I didn't want to buy it in Sport 2 because I believe in the Sport 2. The Sport 2, I think they added the forward assist and they added the dust cover, same plastic handguard. Was not interested in buying that. Sport 3, they got the, as far as off the top of my head, they've got the forward assist, they got the dust cover, but the main thing is it's a free-floated rail. So that's the Sport 3. So here's the thing, I have not looked at the bolt carrier on the Sport 3. I have to assume that they're using the same neutered bolt carrier, okay? So without even looking into it, because they did it on the Sport 1, it's like I won't even look at the Sport 3. The same thing with Colt. Because I bought a Colt and it's got a neutered bolt carrier, I was never interested in buying another Colt, AR, later version, etc. Not interested, because my thing is, like, I don't want the company deciding how I'm going to shoot the gun. First of all, I may have a legal auto sear, or I may, whatever, I may decide that, hey, I'm gonna, give that to the government and do what I want to do. And the point is, I'm an adult. I don't need them to try and limit me, okay, or to force a limitation down my throat. So even though I don't have an auto sear, I don't do that. The fact that they're kind of like they're forcing me to not do it, even if I did have a registered auto sear, you know what? That really makes me hate them, okay, and that makes me not want to buy, another M&P 15, right? Or a Colt for that matter. Now the thing is, if you look over here, they say M&P 15, right? That means that stands for military and police. So how do you go about putting the label military, right, in the name of the gun, right, and then like give me a neutered gun, right, with a neutered bolt carrier? Okay, so you know what? If you're gonna do that, take that M&P off and like put like, I don't know, pussy 15 or something. So that's how I feel about that. So that's the reason why this is like my least favorite AR-15. The Colt is my second least favorite AR-15. I much more prefer the Palmettos and the Radicals and some of the other guns I have and I've reviewed. I can't remember my Ruger. I got a bunch of them. I don't remember the names. But all of those guns, they come with photo assist, they come with dust cover, and they come with a full auto bolt carrier. Now I understand at the time they were trying to save some costs, so that's the reason why they left off the photo assist and the dust cover. I can't imagine they would have saved a whole lot of money. I mean, those things tend to be like extremely cheap parts, and the time to assemble those two parts is also very little. So material and labor is like, so I can't imagine they saved more than, I don't know, $20 or $30 per rifle. So it was a really cheap thing to do. So yeah, left a bad taste in my mouth. So I think they corrected it on the Sport too, but still the neutered bolt carrier, oh man, that is like an absolute no way. It probably cost them more money to neuter the bolt carrier, right? It probably, rather, because most companies out there sell a full auto bolt carrier. So they gotta, I think they would have to buy one of those and then grind it down to neuter it in order to sell to us. Okay, so they actually went out of their way. They put in extra expense to neuter the bolt carrier. So really pissed me off. Now, despite that this is my least favorite AR-15, this is actually my primary home defense gun, right? It's got the light on here. And by the way, I have it mounted on the A2 on the post here. We'll talk about it in a second. But the reason why this is my primary home defense gun is because it's my least favorite AR-15. Because if you do get into a self-defense type of situation, during the course of the investigation, the gun is going to be confiscated, right? And then they're going to basically etch the case number on the gun, so they're going to mar it, okay? So if I'm going to have a gun that's going to be taken and marred, it might as well be my least favorite, okay? So this being my least favorite, again, reliability-wise, ever since I started using the PMags and the Lancers, the gun's 100% reliable, so there's no reason not to use my least favorite gun that I don't mind, losing in a self-defense type of situation, okay? So that's why this is my primary home defense gun. Because a lot of times people take the thing as like, hey, home defense situation, how often is it going to happen? For that one time I want to use my most expensive gun. And I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that, because there's, that guy, that jerk off that's trying to break into my house and, do harm is not worth me wasting an expensive gun on. Okay, so I'm going to use the cheapest gun that I don't really care for. That's the gun I'm using on. All right. So one other thing worth mentioning, if you notice, this does have the plastic handguard here. I had changed this to a quad rail, right? The reason why I changed it to a quad rail is because I needed a place to put the light. Now on my Colt, I actually have it with the pressure pad wired in. On the Colt, I actually did put the quad rail on that, and I left that. The quad rail does add weight. The plastic handguard on my Colt is really big. It's actually fatter than this, and it's got like a heat shield on the inside, so it's actually uncomfortable to hold. So I just don't like the way it feels in my hand, so that's why I put the a quad rail on that one. This one over here, it's a thinner hand guard. It doesn't have the heat shield on the inside. It's still, I've gotten this gun pretty hot. You can still, it's still easier to hold on to this than any aluminum rail. So that's the reason why I went back to this. It's lighter. It works okay. And the reason why I didn't go back to the plastic handguard until I was able to find this Picatinny rail that attaches to the A2 post. And believe it or not, for a long time, like I knew they existed, it's just I couldn't find them, or they were like $100 for this, for this Picatinny here, and I didn't want to pay that. It took a couple of years, but eventually I think I saw it on Amazon, and I was able to get it for something like, I don't know, maybe $15 or $10. And it works fine. I put it on here. I've done a bunch of shooting with this. Got the stream light on here. On my Colt, I have the pressure pad over here. On this one, I just have the button switch, and that works fine. Less wires, less. So I've tried both setups. For this one, I like it because it's, one of the nice things about having the light on here, I can remove this easily and use it as a handheld light if I wanted to. So that's one of the nice things about not using the pressure pad with the wires. And the way this, when you attach it to the A2 post, it's forward enough that it doesn't interfere. You can hold the gun and you can activate the light. And if you don't want to use, if you're not using the light, it's forward enough out of the way that it doesn't bother you. So this is actually a very, very good setup. So yeah, that's the this is my first AR-15. As far as accuracy, now early on I was just using iron sights. When I was just using the iron sights on this, I think I was getting something like 3 MOA. When I started using the red dots, including that $20 Fiat, the group started, came close to 2 MOA. Right? I started getting like 2 inches at 100 yards. And then when I started using like this red dot, and then I put a magnifier behind it, right? I'll slide out this, I'll remove the rear sight. I'll put the magnifier on it. And I've gotten like 1.5 inches several times. I've probably gotten, like, with match grade ammunition, like I know that I will hit 1 inch groups with this if I use match grade ammunition. I generally don't use match ammunition on this because it's like, it's like I said, it's my least favorite AR, so it's like I don't want to use expensive match grade ammunition on this gun, and that's really what it comes down to. So with good target ammo, I've hit 1.5 inches several times. I've hit 1.25 inches, I think. So it's a accurate rifle, no question about that. They did build a good rifle. If you use good ammunition, if you match up your ammunition to the gun, you'll get some really nice groups, especially if you have a magnifier in the back or if you've got some type of magnification. It really makes a difference. If you're shooting at 100 yards, it really helps you hold on your target a lot better. Okay. One of the things I did do is I did remove the end plate and I put a QD point here because at one point I was basically learning to use the single point sling. I ended up coming back to the 2-point sling. So yeah, at some point I was using the a single point on this. I learned on it, so I did change the end plate on this. I never bothered to put a ambidextrous safety on this, which I do with most of my ARs. And again, the reason is because it's not a gun I shoot that often. It's my least favorite AR, so it's just like, okay, I can get by with a standard safety switch on it. Okay, the optic is the Holosun. Which one is this? The 503 CU. So it's the circle dot. It's a green one. Works great. Again, if I want to shoot at distance, I'll take off the rear sight and put on the magnifier. So yeah, this is a great optic for this gun over here. So anyway, let's shoot this gun a little bit. The stock looks like the stock did not come with a mounting point in the back. So what I did is I added a QD socket so I can mount back here. So I've got the H and hook H&K hook match over here. I had to use the H&K sling because on the front you got this thing over here, and I didn't, you know, so the easiest thing to do is just put an H&K hook over here. I'm not using a fast loop sling, which I normally keep attached to the guns that I shoot a lot. Again, since this is a gun I don't shoot that much, yeah, you know what? It's, you know, I just didn't think it was worth, you know, putting a fast loop sling on this. You know, if anything, if I needed to more space or do left side transition, I would just come out of the sling. You know, so that's, I did this for many years, so you know, it's pretty quickly to get out of this thing when I need to and get back into it. So again, since it's a gun that mostly sits in the safe, I don't use it that much. It gets the cheap sling. Okay, let me get my ears on. Let's see what she is. All right, so let's lock this guy open. Safety on. All right, let's go 30 yards start. Let's go 50 yards. Let's go 65 yards. So yeah, for 65 yards, what I did is, like, from here, I wrapped my arm around the sling to help me stabilize the gun. Let's go 75 yards. All right, let's do a mag dump up here, up close here. So like I said, ever since I started using the Lancers and the P-Mags, the gun was like 100% reliable. One of the things I did do today, because in the last year, I started using motor oil. I did a video on this, just regular motor oil as the lubricant. So I put some motor oil in there as the lubricant. The thing I like about using the motor oil is that when the gun starts getting hot, and I can feel some of the heat now coming off of these vent holes over here. Yeah, barrel. I mean, it doesn't take much to get these barrels hot. So once the gun starts getting hot, what I noticed is that the motor oil stays wet longer. Okay, when I use like the for years I was using like the Walmart Remington spray can, like the Remington oil, gun oil. And what I find is that it gets drier faster. Okay, so yeah, lately I've been putting just motor oil, the cheap motor oil. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. Cheap motor oil. I've been using that as my primary lubricant. As long as you don't put too much. If you put too much, you can almost start tasting it while you're shooting, right? So you just gotta put a little bit in there. If you put too much, just wipe it off. Yeah, you don't want to put too much, because seriously, you'll start tasting it. And the guns, I've been very happy using motor oil. I don't see a reason. I haven't found a reason to stop using it yet. So yeah, I only shot 20 rounds, and yeah, it's you know, barrel, you know, it gets hot fast. But nice thing about these plastic handguards, man, you can get this. I mean, I've actually shot this gun. Actually, was it this one, or maybe it was my Palmetto? I don't remember, because I have a Palmetto that also has a plastic hanger. I've shot this gun to the point where, like, I could see smoke coming, like, from the end, like where the plastic meets the metal, because this thing here had gotten really hot. I could actually start seeing a little smoke coming out from here. So I was at the point where, okay, I better stop shooting this now, because I'm actually going to start melting the plastic at the point where the plastic makes contact with the metal. So I've gotten the gun hot to that point, and you can still hold on to the plastic handguard. So, you know, the thing with the plastic handguards is you can't, you know, it's hard to attach stuff onto it, right? You have to put stuff like I did over here on the A2 post, you know, but they are lighter, and you can hold the gun longer when the gun gets hotter. Okay. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop some comments. I'll talk to y'all soon. So I just found another magazine laying around. This one's got 10 rounds in it. Let's blast this thing off, man. We're gonna dump it, man. We're gonna dump all 10 rounds. Come over here on the side, man. Fun. Yeah, nice thing about plastic handguns. Barrel gets hot, but this thing you can hold this pretty good. Yeah, I just opened up the bolt and looked inside it. I just wanted to show you guys, you know, even though we just dumped those, we did all that shooting, you can see that motor oil in there. It's nice and wet, man. You can run, so you can see. See how despite all that shooting? So yeah, I'm a big believer in using motor oil.